Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales. Proview Network crew, assemble!
There's the lower end of the.
And that's good for first.
High school sports are back live on Proview Sports Network.
Owner and editor-in-chief of Enchantment Sports, and Mark, thanks for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You don't even remember that. Maybe you do remember this. You were like one of my. You graded me on one of my first shows. This was probably about 10 years ago, and it was over on Wyoming, and here we are 10 years later.
I think I was the debut guy, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were one of the deals, and you gave me an A. Now, so I don't need to be graded. I got a little experience now, so you can just kind of critique me at the end of the deal. So.
All right. If you got an A, then I expect A+ show today.
Well, that's real easy because we have Mark Smith. 31 years with the Albuquerque Journal, 9 years in television, and God, look at all these awards. I'm just going to read them to you. National Sports Media Associate, New Mexico Sports Writer of the Year, and New Mexico Sports Writer of the Year, 2013, 2014. 30 awards over the years, and.
What you did your homework. I gotta give you props.
Hey, guess what? Actually, no, I did. I want to give I get props where props due. Josh, our director back there, he says Mark Smith, and he Googled you and he wrote things up for you. So,
cool. Yeah, I've had a pretty good career, but now going to a new phase of it. So we'll see how this works.
You're excited though.
I'm excited. I thought it was going to be a way to get back into doing a lot of writing. I'm doing writing when I'm now so worn out from all the editing of other stories and the web. My wife helps me a lot with doing the web designs, but there's a lot of things with that. And then I'm wearing every hat of promoting and marketing and selling.
They appreciate owners and all these people that own. I mean, they realize what behind the scenes, what has to get done before something actually happens in fruition.
It was funny because Greg Archuleta, who's working with me and was a longtime Lobo football writer, and he was saying, you need to remember what made so-and-so our best sports editor ever is knowing everything there is to do in the department, in the business. And
it's kind of like starting out with the broom. I mean, if you're in the construction deal, you start with a broom, you start with a shovel, you start a deal, then you just move your way up.
Yeah, well, I had to tell him that, except that only had to do with editing other stories, professional writer stories. I'm doing a lot of guys. The guys that are helping me are really good. Archuleta's obviously pro, but I've got a lot of upstarts who I am trying to teach like a professor into the business, and then it's all the other stuff on the side. And I'm seriously putting in a lot of 16 to 18 hour days, and by the time I get home,
Hey, well, welcome to the world of business there.
It'll wear you out, but it's kind of cool to do something different.
You know, what was the idea? How this all, you know, I know you and I have talked about some things over the last 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, out of the blue, this all kind of dealing, and you just started running, and you've had some great articles and great success so far.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback. A lot of people wanted to sponsor, which was really nice. You know, I've known so many people and growing up out here and all the dealings I've had that I've been fortunate to have a lot of folks want to get behind it. And you know, not to toot my own horn, but as controversial as I've ever been with writing, I've never stabbed anyone in the back. I've never blown a source, never revealed a source. And you know, you get those kind of relationships where people trust you, and then they want to be part of the gig. The way it kind of got started was Leroy Lucero, who does this show here, and he kept trying to get me interested. And I'm not a web guy, you know. And he said, "There's room out there. There's room out there." And I did a little bit for another website. I've done some stuff here and there, stories for other websites. And I thought, why not try it? Do it for myself, you know? Work for myself for a change. You know what that means, you know, instead of answering to the man all the time. And so here we go.
You got to answer to yourself, and sometimes that's pretty hard to do sometimes.
Nobody puts more pressure on me than me.
It's kind of, you're a coach. I mean, and you become a coach because you just want to be the best.
I got to tell you, Steve, seriously, I am a great coach when it comes to working with my 8-year-old, when it comes to where I've done coaching with girls softball teams, girls basketball teams, AYB, that wasn't with the AYBL, but little boys teams, all of that. I'm the most easygoing guy that just worries about knowledge, never gets upset. When I coach myself, it's insane. I mean, I've never heard myself scream so much in someone. It's a true story. I'm playing tennis. Oh, this has got to be 25, 30 years ago, and I was playing a lot of tennis. And I'm playing a buddy of mine named Chris Garcia. And we were really even. And one day he was just getting the best out of me, and I was getting ticked off at myself. And I started yelling at myself so much that I depressed myself. And I said, "I'm not that bad." I'm like, "What are you doing? You know, it's like a little McEnroe-esque, I guess." But yeah, you know, you're always tougher on yourself, I think, you know, in this biz.
Well, Mark, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week, come back and talk more about enchantment sports and the future of Mark Smith.
Okay, Steve.
Pressure coming from his right, throws in the end zone, caught, touchdown.
Wow.
What a, no, that's.
This beat is crazy.
Davis is going to hand it off to Lewis, who bounces to the outside, and he's got all the speed in the world. Touchdown, Dorian Lewis. Just like that, 31 yards, touchdown.
Split to the near side. Fryer back to throw on the fade route. Caught, touchdown.
Nice.
What a catch there.
Come on, man, this beat is crazy.
at the 10, a cut at the 5, and it's Randy Nieto.
That's a 6-week injury at least. Ivy saw the head up, big hole up the middle, 30, 35, 40, into West Basin territory. One man to beat. They won't catch Xavier Ivy Sod. 80-yard touchdown run on the first play.
It'll be first down and 10. Is Jeff Davidson going to take the option? Going to quarterback keep it? He's got some room. A cut to the outside. Look out. The sophomore's off to the races. Davidson to the 20. Can he go all the way? Touchdown, Cleveland. And what a fast strike by the Storm.
Powell rolls to his left and throws across his body. Cotton's got one man to beat. 45-40 down the left sideline, and he's going to score. Jack Blankenship. Martin's throwing on the go route. Look who's out there. Caught.
Oh my
touchdown.
gosh.
Holy cow, what a play. What a play, what a catch.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We have Mark Smith, owner and editor-in-chief of Enchantment Sports. And Mark, you know, I feel for you. I mean, but you know what? I feel for you, but I'm proud of you because now, you like you say, you're answering your own thing. And you know, as we're talking, people are calling. So I mean, that's what happens when you're on. You
I make sure I turn my off.
You don't take care of things. So,
Yeah,
but,
it starts ringing early in the morning, doesn't it?
it really does.
stop all
It really
night.
does. So it's kind of one of those things that, and you're like I am. You don't have a secretary. You gotta fulfill all those little things that you kind of took for granted when you're working for somebody else.
Yeah, like even with advertising, and people are like, you got to get yourself someone. You got to hire someone. It's not yet, you know, because I'm dealing with everybody at this point who I know, and I don't want some slick salesperson going in and pulling that kind of stuff, you know. You ought to go with Enchantment Sports because of blah, blah, you know. And I just deal with people honestly. Look, we're starting out. If you want to help us, you come up with a price, basically, you know. And this is how it's the same way I've dealt with people my whole life. So I'm not a sales guy. I was a real good one with the old Broadway with electronics. I was the #1 guy in the country, actually, because I told them the truth. No, you don't need that. Come over here, this one's cheaper. And it used to kind of bug them a little, but you know, they couldn't say much because I was #1 guy in the country.
Well, let's get to, you know, Enchantment Sport. You have a website?
EnchantmentSports.com, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what we are because we thought we would just be like a little complimentary website for. We want to do New Mexico sports and focus on Albuquerque sports with the Lobos and football, basketball, and high school sports are the main focus. We got so successful right off the get-go that we thought we're going to have to start doing more than we planned, and we started doing a lot of coverage type stuff. But we're not going to go out there and compete with daily coverage. we can't do that kind of stuff. We don't have the staff for that. We started trying to do a little too much the last couple weeks, and so I'm trying to round it back in. I want opinions that they can't get elsewhere. Greg Archuleta and I spent a total of 27 years as beat writers for the state's biggest newspaper. We know things. We've seen the inside
Contacts,
of these things.
you have personal
We got
contacts.
contacts everywhere, but there's a lot of stuff that we couldn't print when we were beat writers. Things you see, and no, for one reason or another, it's best not to go with that.
Well, politically correct answers.
Politically correct stuff. Not that this stuff's going to be bad, but it's just, a lot of it's funny stuff. Things that happen on the road with a team. Just things you see. Now, there are, you got to realize I was there the last 2 years of Dave Bliss. So I saw some things inside there that might be a little interesting here and there. And there's just a lot of stuff that only a beat writer, is going to see that the general public won't see. So that was one of the premises is to get things going with this and what we can add. And we're going to be doing more and more of that, along with giving our opinions of the current stuff.
Well, I tell you, nobody but yourself knows the work it takes to get it done. I mean, now you're, like you say, I know you as a friend, but also as you're a perfectionist. You just love it. And similar to what we have similarities in both of our personalities. We want to be the best. I mean, we want to go out. We're competitive in a positive way, and now you're throwing yourself out there, and you just want it to be better and better.
And now, like you say, throwing myself out there, and I passed go, and there's no turning back. It's like, wow, this is a lot harder than I kind of expected, but I got to keep going forward now.
But the success, the early success. I mean, the stories that you've written, you've done some, great, plus, I think, like you said, it's branding of your name. I mean, Mark Smith means a lot to the community. You've done a lot for the community over the last. I mean, think about what you've done just with golf. I mean, you're a beat writer for the golf, and even have your own name for your
City
accomplishments.
Trophy. That's kind of cool. They named that city trophy after me a few years ago, and that's really cool. My son's goal in life is to get good enough so he can win it one year and get his name on that too, which would be pretty neat. He's 8 years old. He's got a ways to go, but one of the other things when you talk about community, one of the other things I think is really lacking. Well, let's face it. Period. There's honest sports journalism is lacking, and whether people loved my stuff or hated my stuff when I was writing, you always got the truth with things. I wasn't afraid to tell it like it is. I don't see that anymore. I haven't seen it in a long time in this town. So there's room there for some honest sports journalism. Now, that being said, there's also room there for some journalism that will help the community. Stories that, for whatever reason, the local media won't touch. I don't want to mention what they are because I'm looking into some of these things. But things that could help.
You throwing that carrot out there for us?
Throwing that carrot.
Throwing that little carrot for Mark Smith. Out there.
I'm an investigative crew.
Are you learning
from
James Jonas how he puts that little carrot for the next story? He's setting up that next story and the next article.
James, yeah. Just for example, and this wasn't anything extremely beneficial or anything, but Troy Wheeler, the girls' Sandia soccer coach, who got fired.
A person I coached in high school.
Did you? I didn't know that. Okay. Well, he gets hired by Sandia in December,
right,
and he's fired before the first game. Isn't there a story there?
Very much so.
You'd think there's a story there. Not in this town. There's nothing that comes out. And so I just do some standard journalism, little journalistic reporting to find the story behind it, which is on our website. And there are reasons. You gotta use common sense in this business and then look into things. Some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Well, Mark, we're going to go on a little break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about Enchantment Sports.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We got Mark Smith, owner and editor-in-chief of Enchantment Sports, and we were on that last.
That sounds so important.
It is. It just came in. I'm exerting myself. Enchantment Sports. Get excited about it. I'm excited about it.
We got a nice logo if you've seen it. The logo is pretty, but
you do, and you have your the enchantment. Everybody. It's New Mexico. Enchantment is just what a great name.
That's the hope is that this can keep building, and we're not just covering Albuquerque stuff, and we want the fans involved, the readers involved. We've got a separate area here. We've got our journalists covering the stuff in a journalistic fashion, and we got an area for fans to just chime in. Real fans. If Steve Davis wants to send us something and say he's Steve Davis, we'll put it in. We're not going to put in Gerald SWA 13, or some fake name. I make everybody who wants to send something own up to who they are. But we love having stuff from fans.
And the other thing that makes it also makes Proview. I can almost relate with Proview and yourself is that we don't cut it short, the story short, or the game short. Or when we go out, we have air time and space time that there's not controlled. When and nothing against the Journal, but they have X amount of space for the sports page, and there's only so much you can write in a column, and sometimes. The column gets distorted because of the space, and in this case, you really get the whole story. And I know at me as a coach, that sometimes when I was talking to reporters, that they didn't get the whole. They only said one piece of the deal because they didn't have space, and people took it wrong. They didn't hear all the superlatives. Maybe I said about a player, and I just said one thing that he needs to work on this, and then the next thing I'm bombarded by all these parents saying, "Well, you don't think my son's very good?" And I go, "Well, no, you didn't hear the beginning of all the superlatives," and it wasn't because it was. It's just because the space was limited, and
the reporter would think, okay, here's a juicy part, and I'll put this, but
you get the whole story, and I think that's one thing I really, if I have a knock on the Journal is the limited space and time of putting something in.
If I have a knock on myself, which a lot of people. Even
Greg
Archuleta. No, but my problem's the opposite. That I've always had a problem just going on and on and on, and then in the paper it's like, dude, get to your point. I know. So, and I've done that a couple times already, where I go in to writing a column with a specific thought, and then it goes here and here and here, and I'm like, oh, it's the internet. I can just keep going and going. And then I look back, I'm like, wow, I've written for 4 hours. It's going to take people 3 to read this far, and I haven't got to my point. So I all the years I've been in the business, there's still something to learn every day. And that, you talk about something that the player who needs to work on something, that's what I need to work on.
You know, and you know this. What is the time span, attention span of somebody reading? I know that I can go through the journal and I go through. I look at high points and I look at how it's created. That's probably something that you said it already. You made a nice website and how you create the story and make the story look in the article, you know, and get your eyes' attention.
Yeah, you need those photos to catch somebody's eye, and you don't want to lose them. And the attention span, let's face it, everyone knows nowadays the attention spans aren't long. You know, kids want to grab their phone and look something up. They're from one place to another place to another place, and it's seconds, you know. And so to ask people to look at your website and check your different stories, it's hard to keep them on there for long, I'm sure. You know, I mean, how long do you spend on an average site? You know, if I look at ESPN or whatever, I'm looking at the headlines. Oh, here's something I might want to read, and I'll read 3 or 4 graphs, and then it's on to something else. But you want to keep people motivated to keep looking at stuff, and everything's like this these days, you know.
Well, you made a point earlier, and I really, you know, I know Proview, and I'm putting Proview because with my start.
Yeah, and you know, I appreciate. We haven't even talked about that. You guys have been working with us, and I think we've got a great piece that runs every Thursday, where Leroy Lucero puts the high school games that you guys are showing, and we have Sebastian Noel and Adam Deal making their picks and a little synopsis of the games. I love that stuff. People like to see that. So thank you for
well, actually, that was actually Leroy. Leroy's actually had some great ideas. I mean, and you talk about your story with Leroy. I'm the story behind Leroy, because he was on radio, and I came to him and I said, well, let's get you on TV, and he was hesitant. And guess what? 10 years later, he's going strong, and he's been very active and brought people in, and he's been good for the community.
He's my right-hand man in this thing, so it's been nice.
You know, so give me a little carrot on some of the stories that are, you know, get my juices flowing right here. Okay, I got, you know, that's how you do things. I go, you know.
I've got a couple, 3.
You had to be quickly. We're running out of time. So
I've got some investigative stuff, but it won't be out till the spring with a lot of these things that I'm working on. In the meantime, we're gonna have a lot of good columns and some features, and we'll do our Player of the Week. The Gala Chevrolet Player of the Week comes out. What's today? Comes out Wednesday nights, and so we'll have that. Look for that every week, and we'll have a lot of interesting.
So things. Website, is that how you get a hold of it? Is that how you want people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, enchantmentsports.com, and our email is on the website. There's a couple different emails on there, but enchantmentsportsnm@gmail.com. Just look at the site, get a hold of us. I'll respond to anybody.
Well, Mark, thanks for coming on the Steve Davis Show, and good luck to you.
Thanks, brother. Good seeing you. You look good, man.